Hello from Vancouver, Canada. I'm David Vogt. I'm founder and president of the Urban Opus incubator here. And it's a great pleasure to present to my UTA college colleagues today. I trust you're all well and happy in these uncertain times. It's certainly a disruptive period, but as uncertain as the future may seem, all factors seem to indicate that this is a great time for us to be creative and determined about the future of cities, especially as they can be safe incubators for the future of humanity. That's really what we're dedicated to. Urban Opus, is Canada's original smart city incubator. We launched in 2013. We're a nonprofit society dedicated to collaborative applied innovation of smart city technologies. Our real, foundation, though, comes much earlier. We began with the model of using cities as living labs for mobile media. Our original, program started in 2003, focused on mobile media, called the Mobile Muse Network, leading up to the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver. What we did was we engaged all kinds of community organizations and large corporations in the city itself in understanding how emerging mobile media could be used as a stimulus for new forms of personal, social, and cultural activity leading up to the Olympics. And the idea behind this was that these new technologies, we started Mobile Muse before there were smartphones, before there were social networks, before there were apps. We realized those things were going to be coming. And so we spent a fair bit of time enabling community groups to move forward with technologies that they weren't able to use on their own or develop on their own. So we brought together the engineers, the technologists, and the thinkers around what the future would be. And we built applications, and we built, technologies that allowed our urban partners, our community partners, to start exploring what those futures might be and actually have applications where they could engage their audiences. And so that's what I call that incubator model, where the city is a living lab. We enhance and improve the capabilities of community players in order so that they can engage the public, and the public themselves become the place where all of the innovation happens. And we develop out of that, processes that lead to new applications. They can be for nonprofit if the community groups are nonprofits, but we develop lots of for-profit companies and new technologies at the same time. And the whole idea then is about that collaborative applied innovation. So for Urban Opus, which we began in 2013, we realized that this was the new horizon. Mobile media by 2010 was really pretty well developed with smartphones and mobile networks and applications and so on already out. But clearly the new horizon coming forward was data. And data was something that we saw had an even greater potential than mobile media on its own. And we also saw that most smart city projects were focusing on a machine model of cities. And that was that if I could just get enough sensors everywhere, I could start having those sensors feed into places where smart decisions could be made. So I could have smart power, smart traffic, and all kinds of things around a city that were very efficiently managed and very economically managed, and done generally from a center point. I like to think of this sometimes as a Wizard of Oz model, where you have the man behind the blue screen who controls everything that goes there. And there's a lot of intelligence in that. The gathering of data is very complex, but obviously focused. And there's a great benefit for cities in doing this. What we felt, though, that what the harder problem was, what the bigger problem was, and for us, what the more exciting problem leading up from what we were doing with public engagement with mobile media was, how do you engage people as participants in this? How do you make citizens the center point of both the data collection and the data benefit, turning the model of a city from something that is a machine to something that is an incubator of humanity. How do you allow data to be this invisible, network of communication that is to the benefit of the cultural potential, the social potential, and the personal potential of all the individuals, in a city at that time. The reason that's a much harder problem is that, well, most people are still very afraid of data. They're worried about their security, their privacy. They're worried about how they're being leveraged by most of the internet applications that are out there now in terms of marketing and so on. And so they're not going to be as excited about participating in something related to data as something related to, say, mobile media, which seems to them is much more about entertainment, about social engagement. And so that was part of the challenge we took on when we went out on Urban Opus. Another challenge is that we're still in an era where the primary players that have data are people that are organizations that are very worried about the misuse of data, either because they are currently leveraging it in ways that may not be, something that everybody feels good about, or that they are worried of the negative public relations potential of having their data leak out, and so somehow another personalized information or other materials there. And so the larger organizations that have data are typically reticent to participate in collaborative projects in this space. But what we realized, despite these kind of extra hurdles, and they are very significant extra hurdles, and the design problems associated with that, was that there are two things that are really, really important for us to understand in terms of the future of smart cities. The first, for us, putting in a very simple way, is that the smartest sensors have two legs, meaning they are people. And they are people that are in every part of the city. They are people with vastly different, intentions, purposes, desires. That whole diversity is both confusing but very exciting. But they all live together, and they all are in this place at the same time. Also, they all have smartphones. They all have devices that can mediate between a data layer that may be completely invisible to them, and multiple data layers, as well as communicating with their hopes, their desires, and themselves. So that smartphone in their hands is something that can help them become active participants in data related projects, which means that they can be very aware of what they are doing and actually, collecting data or doing something or participating at a particular point in what the data is about, or they can be passive carriers. So there's an application on their phone which is automatically picking up data as they go. In either case, they would be well informed. They would be very willing to participate. This is an opt-in kind of process. And you have to design into those kinds of applications some form of immediate fulfillment, immediate gratification, meaning they're not going to do it just because it's altruistic. They're going to do it because there is some benefit to them. And so any application where you are using smart sensors that are human have to first start with trust. You have to earn their trust, and you have to then also deliver value. And again, that sounds like a commercial activity, and really it is in the long run, except can be for-profit or nonprofit participants. And so the smart sensors having two legs is really important. The second thing that really galvanized us moving forward in this domain, this this harder problem zone, was the fact that there are so many community organizations out there that want to move forward in fulfilling their mandates of public service or public engagement or others, and have no idea how to work with data. At this point in our society, our global society, usage of data is generally something that is the purview of huge firms or huge organizations, and passing that down to smaller organizations who can use data and apply data and gather data in proactive and purposeful and productive and valuable ways is actually beyond the capacity of most communities organizations that are out there. However, community organizations that are on the ground have something that is absolutely golden to put on the table in terms of a collaborative innovation model, and that's that they've already earned trust. And so whether it is, a bicycling group or an ethnic group or a community organization on the ground that serves sports, whatever thing they do, they have built an audience, they're serving an audience, and that audience trusts them. And so if that community organization comes forward to their audience and says, look, we're building an application that we want you to put on your smartphone that does this, and it's going to collect these data, and we're going to use these data in this way to create value to all of our members and to you specifically in this way, that can immediately gain you audiences to build value and to participate in this collaborative innovation model. And so when you start thinking of people, when you start thinking of communities, and what we like to think of it as is that rather than thinking a city is a machine, we think of a city as a community of communities. And that is, there are not just a few, there are thousands of different overlapping communities based on people's interests, backgrounds, and so on, which populate a city. Each one of those interests has the capability of engaging trust and earning data, which has some value in a broader mix. In the long run, we feel that this kind of data, which is about what people care about and what they're doing, is the most valuable data layer there is. Of course, that's why large companies are trying to scrape that kind of information, that kind of data from people all the time in order to market to them. Obviously, we have to have a different kind of data model and data trust with them in terms of who owns their data and how it's being applied in order to work with these community organizations. But that's part of the model, is that information about where the manholes are in a city and where the telephone poles are and where the water flows is all great, and it's really important. That's all infrastructure, but it's a second level of information removed from the lives and purposes and intents of the people that are inhabiting the city. And so what we feel is that we want to combine those data that we collect from community organizations and new applications with the broader infrastructure data to create completely new forms of value in a city. And so one of the major points that we care about, and might be a great place for us to think about collaboration, is we need a data brokerage for that. And we've been thinking about that and designing that. The data brokerage is something that doesn't really exist on an applied level yet, that can bring in data from very large organizations, government organizations in terms of open data, but also proprietary corporate data, which can be cleaned and certified and protected. And we can enable the corporations that own that data to invest that, to have sharing or licensing rights for that data in order that they can also participate in other benefits of the data brokerage. And so that sense of having a place where we can have all of these community oriented and and corporate-oriented and city as a machine-oriented data coming all together is novel and it's difficult. And so that's what is galvanizing us. We are actively forming partnerships to do projects, big and small, to do this kind of work. Um, it has been slow, I will admit that, not from the point of view of any kind of technological hurdle, but I would say the cultural hurdles of organizations and even of people being willing to understand the benefit of data in their lives and in their urban existence is a matter of time. It simply needs to grow, and it will grow, and we're delighted to see where this sits right now. And so in the end, just to sum up, Urban Opus again is an incubator based in Vancouver, Canada. We are delighted to be part of UTA. We focus on cities as living labs, as cities as communities of communities. We really look at the personal, social, and cultural potentials of data technologies, how we can create citizen data as a core value in larger data activities, how we can earn the trust of individuals as the smart sensors with two legs, how we can leverage trust through community organizations, and how we can build a data brokerage which enables this kind of community scaled data mixing and value creation on a broad fashion. So in summary, I'm very delighted to present to you today. I'll be delighted to work with all of you, and I'd be delighted to collaborate or partner with any of you in your projects or projects of our own which may have value. I wish you all the best, and look forward to 2021 in a much more open fashion than we have today. Thank you very much.